Welcome to the Businesses Start Here podcast, hosted by David Vigliotti and Vigliotti and Associates. We're here to talk with business owners and business experts to inspire and encourage entrepreneurs.
Hello, welcome to the Businesses Start Here podcast. I'm your host, Dave Vigliotti, founder of Vigliotti and Associates. I'm excited about today's episode. We have the founder of Local Art Plug out of Omaha, Nebraska, Xavier Jackson, with us. So, Xavier, thanks for joining us, and we're looking forward to spending the day with you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, David. I'm excited.
Yeah, great. So, Xavier, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, how you got into it, where you are now, and where you expect to be in the future?
Definitely. So I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, born and raised. I went to college at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and I had a background in broadcast production as well as advertising public relations, but my passion was really in creative writing. And through that, I couldn't find anyone to help me advance my career or any established professionals in my area. This was about 2016, 2015, and I was figuring why in this digital age, in this technological age, is it so hard to find other creatives to learn from, bond with, and hopefully create something magical with. So that led me to create an idea called Showcase, which would have been a magazine that circulated throughout high schools and gave high school students the chance to not only gain exposure, but to use this magazine opportunity as a piece in their resume when they're applying for residencies or internships or whatever have you. So this was just something that I was thinking about in college, and I couldn't find someone to help me with it while I was in college. So I kind of held on to that idea. I graduated from college and I started working construction, something that wasn't my major. And I was like, wow, this is it's kind of soul crushing just because it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I was like, is this really my purpose in life? Is this how things are supposed to end up? So I took that idea that I had in college and I applied to a couple of tech accelerators. And the idea went from being a magazine that focused on high school students to being a location-based app that allows you to find local artists in any city, whether they're showing or not, as well as their events and any galleries that are having showings around town at that time. You'll be able to buy from these artists, of course, when they're not publicly visible. So that's kind of what we're heading towards. That's the future. And right now, where we're at is we're building community as well as an online presence and platform for artists to not only gain exposure from, but to facilitate those sales and those connections for them. So right now, we just had our first major event. We helped create Skatefest Omaha. We were the arts and culture sector of that, and what we did in that event was to bring the arts and culture to the skate community and help highlight how artists can transcend different adversities in their life and make their passion into a career. So that was one of many shows that we've done to help bring artists not only together with each other, but together with the public in a shared community space. That's kind of what we're doing right now, as well as having the website that facilitates not only one-time purchases, but subscriptions to art. So we know that there's a price barrier when you're entering into the art market or creative world. You do find something that you love, but it's just out of your budget at the moment. So we're willing to not only work with you, but find payment plans to help you own that one magical art piece, or we have a subscription program that allows you to experience new art every 3 months without ever having to leave your home. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I know that was a mouthful, but that's where we're at.
That's awesome. So you started off with kind of a paper idea, so a magazine, so not high tech at all, and now you're moving to an app and a website, and you're basically, in addition to being a social network essentially for artists, you're also an e-commerce site. Is that?
Yes.
I understand that right? Awesome. So you're getting into everything.
A little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, cool. So what made you go from when you were in the accelerator, go from the magazine to the app and adding the e-commerce piece to it? How did that transition take place?
Definitely. So my thought process at the time was that Instagram and Facebook were cluttered, and we did market research to find the same results and feelings from artists. A lot of people go there to see, pictures of their friends or pictures of dogs or whatever have you. They're not necessarily there for art. If they see art from an artist, they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they kind of just keep scrolling. But an artist can't really build yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it does help some artists gain exposure, but it's not a great business building tool for a lot of those emerging artists who are just trying to get established. So my idea was kind of to build a Airbnb and LinkedIn hybrid. Airbnb, as far as you could have that different subscription component, you could find different pieces in different cities, and LinkedIn, as far as you could have the your profile and you could network with others who share similar interests to you and maybe make similar art to you. So currently, it's more focused on the artist than the art consumer, but the art consumer can definitely go on there and then find people in their area.
Awesome. Great. So artists tend to be um, a lot of times they're insular, right? So
Mhm.
they spend a lot of time by themselves, and it's hard to connect people. So what challenges have you run into with getting artists to kind of open up a little bit more and connect in ways that they haven't previously?
Definitely. So artists are, like you said, introverts for the most part. They kind of live in their own world, and that can be challenging at times when you're trying to set appointments and make meetings and stuff happen. But then there are some artists who are very much on the ball and very very much time oriented in everything that they do. So it's kind of a mix of both personalities, and then learning how to kind of manage those styles of those just personality traits again. I haven't had too many major problems or hiccups. It was kind of first just accumulating myself in the creative space and letting people know that I'm not here to profit off of anybody. I want us to win mutually and find a way to build community and help build your career as well. So I think after I was able to establish myself and show that I'm here with a genuine purpose, that unlocked a lot of doors.
And are you an artist yourself?
I am. Yeah.
What
So
what
my
is what's your medium?
creative writing.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
So are
Yeah,
you
my writing.
using the app and website you built to connect to people as well as for e-commerce?
Yeah. So right now we're just focused on physical art, so paintings and sculptures, but eventually we want to open it up so creative writers, videographers, poets, musicians, etc., can get paid and recognized in their own area. So I haven't benefited as of yet, but I've been able to help a lot of people. So that's
Awesome.
been really cool. Mhm.
Um, and so, where are you in the journey? So, how long have you been doing this, and what is kind of the long term plan? I know we talked a little bit about that, but what is like the vision for the business?
Definitely, definitely. So where we're at right now is again trying to just establish top of mind reputation. So when you think of art anywhere in Nebraska, you think of local art plug. So we're doing that through building not only community but our connections in different cities around the state, and trying to have those local art shows that really bring together the community and artists in different walks of life that normally wouldn't interact with each other. Where we see ourselves going in the future is expanding. So next year we want to add not only more mediums, but we want to start getting into different cities, branching out. We're going to do some market research to see what cities are really in need. We're thinking maybe Council Bluffs or Iowa, just because it's right across the river, right next to us. It'd be a very easy market to just transition into. But we're also thinking of like Kansas City, maybe someplace in Colorado that is kind of overlooked for artists, essentially, because we don't want artists to feel like they're living in flyover country and have to move to a larger city. They should
Right.
be able to, profit off of their talent in the city that they live in.
Yeah, that's great because I think you hit the nail on the head. So many people think they need to live in New York or LA or one of these big cities to have a successful art career, but there's
Mhm.
people hungry for art all over the country. So that's great.
Exactly.
You're helping to showcase that and give them an outlet. Um, so you said we a few times. Can you tell me about your team, how big it is, and how many people you have?
So it was just me for the last couple of years, and I think I didn't mention the years. So we started. I started this idea in 2017. We officially launched in 2019, and COVID kind of set us back, but we were able to do a lot of our events this year through 2021. Um, what was your question again? Sorry.
Tell me a little bit about your
Team.
team. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we just added a director of social media. Andre Sessions is his name, and then we have a director of digital media. Jeff Collins is his name, and they've been, very vital in helping us create our social media platform as well as the content for our website. So it's mostly just videos and pictures. In the beginning, it was just me kind of doing everything. I was wearing, seven hats at once, as all entrepreneurs or startup founders do. But I did enjoy it, and I was able to find time for it. But the business has grown to a point to where I not only had to find help just for my own mental stability, but
Right.
the business just needed help to just grow faster at a faster rate. So these people were amazing and volunteered their help right now. No one's getting paid as of yet, but we're still on the hunt for some funding, which we feel is coming sooner than later. We're getting a lot of traction in the our audience is just growing. So sooner than later, something's gonna give.
Yeah. So what kind of funding avenues are you pursuing right now?
Definitely, we've been looking at angel investors, venture capital as well. But right now, we've just been bootstrapping all of our operations, just to kind of see is it really a viable company and how far can we take it on our own before we really do need that funding. And we're getting pretty close to that point to where we do need funding to grow to the next level, and we want to come to them with enough proof that this is something that's worth investing in.
Yeah. Um, so what's been your biggest challenge starting the business to this point?
Hmm. My biggest challenge. I'd say in the beginning, there was this I wouldn't say stiff learning curve, but having a broadcast and advertising background helped me a little bit with market research. But everything else business related, I didn't really have a clue about. So I had to Google and YouTube everything. I feel like I got a master's degree from YouTube. But it's been really fun just kind of figuring out all the ins and outs of how businesses really work, what you really need to do to set up a business, an LLC, get things trademarked. And it's all useful knowledge that I wish I would have learned in college or high
Right.
school or something. But it's pretty cool. So that's been one hurdle that we've had to deal with. At one point, it was recruiting people to be on the team, but now that we've grown to uh, this point, people are just kind of volunteering and wanting to be a part of the team because they see the mission and kind of what we're doing in the community. And then the last thing I'd say is probably funding. We haven't been hurting for funds as of yet. So our operation isn't very costly to run every month. It's mostly just hosting a website and then having events here and there. So a few $100s out of pocket we can spare, and we'll make some of it back at those events as well. But to grow that into a larger thing, we will need funding in the future.
And I think we talked earlier about you're um, part of an incubator. I'm not sure the exact type that you're in, but something with that helps you develop your business. I think that's part of around the time when you started looking at different avenues besides the magazine. So, what have
Mm,
have they helped you with, and how did you find them?
definitely. So I had a friend, I'm still my friend. He's a co-founder of Skatefest Omaha, but he originally applied to the business incubator, and he told me about it while he was a student at UNO going through their entrepreneurship program. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I didn't know there was something out like this out there. So basically an accelerator or incubator that I think they go by both names, same thing. What it is like basically going back to school, and they have certain steps or benchmarks or different levels that you're supposed to reach before you can pass on to the next one to kind of help you guide you along that business building path. And it really helped me kind of not only validate that the product was an actual need, something that people needed, a problem to be solved, but also help me get established in the beginning as far as resources that like interns or introductions into people that I wouldn't have known before in the creative community. And I think that was very vital, not only to helping build the confidence in myself, like, oh, I can actually do this. I didn't go to school for business. No one in my family owns a business or runs a business, but this is something that's achievable, and they can kind of see the bigger picture as well. So I think not only did they help with kind of some of the road mapping and direction, but also kind of just some of the support and just guidance, overall, and letting you know that this is possible and that you can do this in Omaha or
Yeah.
whatever city. Hmm.
Yeah, I think confidence is important because um, there's a lot of imposter syndrome in business owners. So even like in my field, I'm technically an expert in what I do, but there are times where I feel like I have no clue what I'm doing. Nothing. Especially when you look at Twitter and you're there's something on Twitter called tax Twitter, and they talk about all the different things going on in the tax world. And someone says they do something, they're like, "Ooh, I don't even know how to do that." So I think having a place where you can go to and get that confidence built up is huge, especially as you start out. I'm sure 10 years from now, there will be some things I'll do. I'll have that same thought, but it'll be a lot more fleeting because I have the experience. But when you start out, you don't have experience. You need someone to come along and say, "Hey, nobody had experience when they started this." So it's good
Hmm.
you found a group that not only supports you with technical knowledge and things like that, but helps you get that confidence that most business owners lack.
Definitely building a business or even just running a business can be very isolating, and just stressful in itself. And I think being able to find a community of people who are kind of going through what you're going through definitely, like you said, helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody understands what a business owner goes through until they've been.
Exactly.
And the one thing you said about that they helped you with was determine that there is a need for your product. Can you explain a little bit about the process you went to get that kind of ironed out?
Definitely. So, well, we first built a Google form to just kind of collect that information, and it was more so anonymous than anything. It was optional to leave your email address, and those in turn end up becoming our first customers or followers or supporters. That's kind of how you find your loyalists in the beginning. But what we did was, well, I keep saying we, but it was just me in the beginning for 3 years. I just kind of say it; it makes it sound larger. But
Did the same
I
thing for
would.
a long time.
There you go. Yeah, I would just message everybody in my Facebook friends, on my LinkedIn friends, and my Instagram friends, and I would send them this link with a message saying, paragraph saying, "Do you support the creative community? Are there any needs that you see that need to be filled? Do you have time to take out this 5-minute survey?" Through that process, I found out that you can send, I believe it's 150 messages a day on Facebook, and then it just cuts you off. You can't send anymore.
Yeah.
So I was doing that for maybe months at a time, months and months until I got about maybe 150 responses, and that was we had about a 70 to 80% agreement of yes, there is a problem in the Omaha art scene that needs to be fixed. So we said that that's enough proof for us to just move forward with the idea and the product and try to solve it. And then after I did validate that, I went out to actual business owners, maybe around like 50 in person, honestly. I can't remember right now because it was 2017, but yeah, every weekend or every couple of days, I would just schedule a meeting with a different business owner in a different industry. So I talked to fashion boutique owners, tattoo artists and tattoo shops, musicians in production studios. I talked to artists, art gallery owners, nonprofit owners, and then different small business owners as well, to just kind of get their perspective and see if what their needs are. Is there any commonalities? What area needed the biggest help? In the area that we found that needed the biggest help and where we could have the biggest impact, it was artists. It ended up being those physical artists. That's kind of what we started with and where we're at right now. But we're slowly expanding into musicians, who are the next biggest market that needed help, and then it'll be the fashion designers.
Cool.
Hmm.
Awesome. So you built the product. It's functional now. I assume that you have an app and the website are up and people can purchase things now, right?
Hmm. Yep.
So what was the process for that? Do you have coding experience or did you have to bring people in? How did you get the product built?
Definitely. So the first original capture page was built by someone at the Startup Collaborative, Erica Washinger. Shout out to her. Thank you. That helped a lot. But from there, we did a lot of node code solutions. I think our base website might have been built on like Wix or something like that, and we were called Showcase at the time. We transitioned our name into Local Art Plug, and I built that platform on it's called tilde.cc, and it's kind of like a more upscale version of Wix. It's still the drag and drop format, but it just looks a little bit more modern, a little bit more sleek, and I feel like kind of more of the look that I was going for that e-commerce site. Right now, we're transitioning into our third version of the website, which would be hosted on WordPress. So if you do type in that domain name and you're getting a kickback, it's because we just switched over domains. They said it would take 24 to 48 hours, so we're just kind of in an awkward period. And as a business owner, I'm sure you know what it's like to just kind of you're just sitting around just twiddling your thumbs, stressing slightly, but not too stressed out about it. But we
Right.
will be back online. So if you do get a kickback, please just try again in a few days and we'll be there.
Cool. Awesome. So why'd you change the name?
So I changed the name because I ran into issues when I was trying to file for the LLC. And this was after 2019. I had the website launch at Cali Commons, a local art gallery nonprofit in town. But I wanted to wait to push out the social media because I didn't have the LLC confirmation. And I found out that there was another company in Gretna under the name of Showcase Homes. I reached out to them a few times to try to get consent to operate under the name, but they thought it was just too similar of a name and that we would be competitors in some form or fashion. So I kind of went back with and forth with them over the course of like 3 months because I was really set on that name. And then finally, I got the final no that I felt like, okay, they're not going to budge. There's no convincing them. So I kind of just went back to my list of names. I tossed them around to different friends, bounced them off of family members as well, and then we just kind of landed on local art plug. And that's kind of where we're at now. So we made that switch in March of 2020. And then we launched the website and the social media presence. And then the world stopped when COVID hit. So then we kind of had to pivot from having our in-person shows that we were planning on having that year to kind of really help get the brand and the name out there to doing more of online social media stuff and figuring out ways to help and support through that medium.
Yeah. That's impressive. A lot of people, the reason businesses fail is they don't pivot. Like the example that I always talk about is BlackBerry, right? So
Mm,
people don't want a touch screen. They don't want all this entertainment stuff, but because they weren't willing to pivot and shift, they're still in business. I think they sell a couple 100,000 phones a year because there are a small minority that do want the old standard BlackBerry. But being able to adjust and pivot, I think of the last podcast, one of the last podcasts I recorded, um, I used a quote from, I think it was Dwight Eisenhower, that planning is essential, but plans are useless. Right. So,
mhm.
so you had a lot of plans, right? But then they
Yeah.
not being worth a thing. But because you had thought through that, it gave you all the other avenues you hadn't pursued at that point were still fresh in your mind and gave you the thought process to be able to shift to what reality ended up being, which you would have never been able to plan for what happened, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I launched a thing if you had known that probably a couple of days later the world was going to shut down for
Mhm.
however long it did. So.
Who knew, right?
I was going to ask until you brought up code. I was going to ask you what's one thing that surprised you about starting a business, but I'm sure it could be the answer for a lot of that. Um, so people have different ideas on what starting a business looks like for them personally. Um, what did you think? Like nobody thinks it's going to be easy, but I think it's even no matter how hard you think it's going to be, it's harder than you think.
Mhm.
What did surprise you about maybe the difficulty or something that you have to do that you didn't think you'd have to do, or just kind of what misconceptions did you have about starting a business that you realize now?
Definitely. I thought you needed, like thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to start a business. You don't. I thought you needed that to register an LLC. You don't. I think it's like $100. Little do people know. What else? Name pivot. That thing did surprise me when that came up. And the business wasn't just being cooperative, but I mean that's the nature of business. They gotta look out for themselves, and there's no hard feelings there. So I understand completely where they're coming from. What else? The competitiveness, the copycats that could arise after your business does come about and they see that there is an idea or potential there. So that competition, I welcome it. I love healthy competition. It makes us both better in the end. So I think that's pretty cool. What else surprised me? Uh, I knew it would take a lot of time, but I did watch a show for one accelerator incubator called Silicon Valley. It's on HBO.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to watch it, yeah, it's it's pretty good about a show about the life of an entrepreneur living in a startup. So that kind of helped mentally prepare me for kind of the long journey that I'd have to go through, and then a bunch of pitfalls and things that I might have to, eventually encounter. And I think one of the episodes they did have to change the name, or they were forced with the difficulty of choosing a new name or something like that. So that kind of helped prepare me a little bit there too. I've been trying to read books and podcasts as well, so there's nothing that surprises me out of the blue. But you just never know in business, that you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I'd say definitely, COVID surprised everyone, I'm sure, but that made everybody switch and think about different ways to interact with their customers, and it's kind of helped push business forward and into the digital age.
Yeah, it's made people a lot more creative with what they do and lean on technology a lot more.
Hmm.
One thing I want to talk about, you mentioned copycats, so it sounds like you've had a few, at least one, I would guess. How do you think that's pushed you to be more innovative, or what has that done for you personally or as a business, having to deal with that?
Definitely. It makes you kind of stop for a second, because originally I think you're taken aback. You're like, well, I'm doing this. Why they can't do it too? But then you're like, well, it's a free country. Anyone can do it. And you're like, well, I just have to do it better. So you start looking for ways to innovate. And I think it was Jay-Z said, do something your competition can't copy. So I've been trying to think of, like, what's the biggest thing that I can do that no one could possibly else do. So that's kind of helped push me in the business forward as well, just focusing more on ourselves than the competition. But we do keep an eye on the competition to kind of see what they're up to and what they're doing, because they do have good ideas. People think different than you, and you're like, okay, well, maybe we should try that, or maybe we should do that way. And it's like, oh, I wouldn't do that way. This is what we should do instead. Um, so I think it's just helped me focus a little bit more on the business, as well as see that there's something there.
So, did you always want to start a business, or is this something that kind of came out of the blue for you?
So in elementary school, I was in something called Future Probe, and in that we created our own product. I think I was in like fourth grade, and I think we created our own branded toothpaste or something, and that was just like super fun to me. And one of the reasons I originally got into advertising. So I just liked being creative and being able to just think freely and make things up out of thin air that could be actual products. I never really pictured myself owning or starting a business. In college, I was a videographer. I freelanced a lot, so I thought maybe I'd start a freelance business and just work for myself. But eventually, that passion grew into me wanting to do actually just own my own business. That's kind of where I'm at right now through this startup and entrepreneur journey. I've realized that I do like getting out there and interacting with people, networking, doing all the market research, doing all the grunt work that goes into building a business. To me, it's kind of fun and enjoyable, although it can be stressful and very time consuming. It can be rewarding as well, very rewarding.
So, what is your favorite part about having a business?
Um, I think all the people it's introduced me to before, because myself, I'm an artist, so I was an introvert as well, and that was one really hard thing that I had to overcome. Was I hated crowds, I hated going and talking to people, but now I've become kind of like a socialite. And I'm always at different art shows and just kind of networking and talking to people and telling them what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, because I realized that if I really did want this to succeed, then I'd have to get out there and talk to people to get it to grow. I mean, I was never adverse to talking to people, but it just wasn't. I wasn't going to be the life of the party in the room before this. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And then I think you said you're still working full time somewhere, right?
Hmm.
At the marketing advertising. It's do you have a time frame for when you'd like to be able to go full time with the business, or is it something maybe you don't want to do? You want to do both and have this as a pretty cool side hustle?
Nice. Yeah, it would be nice to have it as a cool side hustle. Eventually, I would like to do it full time within the next year or two. So I worked full time at a news station for about a year and a half when I first began this in 2019. Then I left that job because I just needed more time. The hours is just a lot of long hours. So I went down to working part time at Amazon, and that helped me really flourish the business and grow to a point to where we actually needed money. And I couldn't get funding, so I got back into the full time job world, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, is using that full time job to help kind of fund some of the growth in local art plug until we can get funded. I'd like to work on it full time eventually. Yeah, sooner than later. So we're planning again a year to two out. Mhm.
Um, and so, what is your revenue model? How are you gonna like? Are you getting commission on the sales, or how are you? How is Local Art Plug making money?
Definitely. So we make money through one of three ways. The one way being the one-time sell. We do take a 20% commission, which is a lot lower than traditional galleries that usually charge between 40 to 60%, and then they have no compete contracts. So once you sign with a gallery, you kind of can't show your art anywhere else. If that gallery doesn't do a good job of selling your artwork, then you're kind of stuck not making money. But we also offer our individual subscriptions. So if you do see that $10,000 art piece that you have to have it, you can't live without it, we'll work with you to make that payment plan possible to where you can eventually own that artwork. And then our final way is our rotation subscription, and this has three different tiers. We have uh, subscription for individuals and a subscription for businesses, and they're both three different tiers, from local enthusiast to local advocate to local lover, and each tier range with its own amount of different products and sizings of artworks. But essentially, through that, you're exposed to new artists every 3 months without ever having to leave your home. We'll come and we'll swap out the art for you, and we'll take away the old ones and give you the new ones. If you do see something in some of those collections that you do want to keep, you always have the option to kind of buy it under the rotation package. And that's our hope and goal, is it once we get these artworks into people's homes and businesses, they're like, "Oh, this belongs here. We have to have it."
So, for the subscription, is it like a rent to own, or is it just a flat subscription?
It's just a flat subscription. Yep, you own it for the 3 months that you have it, and then you give it back.
Okay. What do you
Mhm.
do to protect yourself against like damage and things like that?
Definitely. So the consumer assumes a lot of the liability. It's kind of, you break it, you buy it. So they enter into our terms and agreements or our conditions contract, which states that if they were to cause damage, they have to either pay for a repair of that artwork or just outright purchase the piece, whichever is cheaper. So they kind of assume the liability. It's almost like renting a car in a sense. You wouldn't, take a car to the Derby. Hopefully not. And you wouldn't get, hopefully a $10,000 artwork and then have a house party type situation.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the ways that we've insured ourselves for the individuals. But for the businesses, we found that, well, actually, I keep saying we. I found through my journey, I was going to sell insurance at one point, and that businesses can actually attach art subscriptions to a marine inland article floater, I believe, under their business owner's policy. It's just a part of their policy for art subscriptions, and that they can also uh, uh, write off art leases because they're tax deductible. So there's lots of benefits for businesses to not only lease subscribe from art, but it'll also be insured and covered for under their business owner's policy.
Great. Um, so, how do you find? I think I know how you find the artist. The hard part's finding the customers. How do you find those people that do get subscriptions or outright buy pieces?
Definitely. So that is definitely hard to find. Right now, our main tool to find those customers has been social media. And that was mostly because of COVID. Things have been opening back up, so we've been having in-person shows that have allowed us to spread through word of mouth. But our target demographic is women, some college education to college educated, 25 to 38. Um, that's about 70% of our audience. So we try to go heavily after them on social media, and we feel like we're having pretty good results with that approach.
Is that similar? The demographic similar to most art purchase then?
Yeah, it's
Has
mostly
that
women.
Does anybody try to figure out why? Like, what, there a way to get men and more interested in art?
See, and that's what I've been trying to figure out too, because even our social media audience is kind of split. Women, I think, are 55%, and then the men are 45%.
Huh.
I can't figure out a way to bridge that 10% gap, or 5%, whatever, to get them to
And it's
50/50.
interesting though that your customers percentage is different than even your following on social media.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Isn't it? It's an interesting conundrum. So we've been trying to figure out what the numbers are telling us there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe maybe the men have to ask their wives for permission.
there you go. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because if you can break through that, that could open up a whole that can increase the market size basically.
Definitely. So there's opportunity there, and that's what kind of keeps me excited, and keeps me working on Art Plug.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're just about out of time. Is there any tips or anything that you want to share with any potential business owners or someone that started a business and maybe is getting burned out, or anything that you just want to say to a business owner?
Definitely. I'm terrible at it, but rest is much needed. I've been told that all the time. I've been trying to meditate and work out more. Meditating, I've been doing a little bit more. Workout, I need to do better on. Eating healthy would help too. But I'd also say just keep going. Don't stop. Feel free to reach out to your peers and kind of let them know what you're going through if you are having hardships, because maybe they do know the answer, or they've been through it, or they can actually see things through a different angle. And that's kind of one of the things that I've learned just on this entrepreneur's journey, is that sometimes you can get just so bogged down in the weeds. You like kind of put your head down, you focus, that you kind of miss the bigger picture. And then when you talk to somebody else, your eyes are like opened again, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that I got so hyper focused that I was missing this over here. So I'd say, try to stay open with your ideas, but, also protect them, especially in the beginning, until you feel to they're at a point where nobody can really copy you. And if they do copy you, you have a good ground or foundation under you. And I'd also say, just first and foremost, you got to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. As corny as it sounds, but it's true.
Yeah. I think rest and taking care of yourself is incredibly underrated in all areas of American life, but especially in business owners. A lot of business owners take pride in putting in 15, 20-hour days. When one, that's not sustainable, but two, there we go. I think if you work yourself that hard, you're not thinking clearly. You're going to make some big mistakes and put a lot more at risk. And if you're a business owner, you don't have short-term disability like an employee does. So if you're out of business and it's just you, or if you have a few people, you may not be making money during that period. So um, I think taking care of your body is probably one of the most important things a business owner can do. And having said that, that's the one thing I'm the worst at as well. So
It's like we
it's not
know
a
what we
pride
should be
thing.
doing, we just don't.
Exactly. It's easier to tell people what to do than to do it sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, I agreed.
All right, Xavier, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule and making time for us, and really enjoy getting to learn about you and your company and the great things you're doing in Nebraska for artists. And I'm looking forward to seeing you come to Pittsburgh. So
Nice.
get some artists here. There's a pretty good art scene here. I mean, obviously Andy Warhol started here, so there's a history here. But really enjoy getting to know you, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, no problem at all. Thank you for having me, David. I'll have to make the trip out there. I have family in Washington, D.C., so Pittsburgh. Wait, is it on the West Coast or
Yeah,
East
that's on.
Coast? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's on the East Coast.
It's a
Okay,
couple
thought I had
hours.
my geography correct. Yep.
Yeah,
So it's just a stone's throw away. I'll
yeah,
I'll be there eventually, sooner than later.
yeah. We'll have to
Thank you
get a
for
permission.
having me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, so, sounds good. All right, that's another episode of the podcast. We appreciate Xavier coming on with us. We want your feedback, so please comment on all of our content. Let us know what you'd like to see. If there's anybody you think we should have on the podcast, please let us know. But until next time, we can't wait to grow with you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Businesses Start Here podcast. We hope you were inspired and encouraged by today's podcast. We would love to hear your feedback. Please send us an email at podcast@villiotti.com. That's podcast@VILLIOTTI.com. And be sure to share, like, and comment all of our content.